Hello, and welcome to Lyla's Lullabies, where we spend time exploring with Lyla, a traveler who wanders the world at her own pace while sharing her most enriching and restorative moments with you. In tonight's story, we'll follow Lyla as she explores the musical richness of Detroit, Michigan. There's nowhere you need to be, nothing you need to remember. Just settle in, get comfortable, and let yourself go. We're so glad you're here. Whenever you're ready, let's begin. The rental van pulled into downtown Detroit just after 9 in the morning, and Lyla's friend Marina immediately started narrating in her best documentary voice. Here we see 5 intrepid travelers arriving in the Motor City, prepared to document the legendary sounds of "Please stop," Beth said from the back seat. "It's too early for your David Attenborough impression." That was supposed to be Ken Burns, actually. "It was terrible either way," Josie said cheerfully, leaning forward between the front seats. "Lyla, where are we going first?" Lyla checked the itinerary on her phone. "Motown Museum. I booked us for the 10 o'clock tour." "Of course you did," Claire said, "because you're competent and organized, unlike the rest of us." "Someone has to herd us cats today," Lyla said, smiling as she navigated the streets. The city was busy with morning traffic, and the June sun was already bright and warm. Detroit looked good. Revitalized neighborhoods, new construction alongside historic buildings, a sense of energy and renewal. They found parking near the Motown Museum and piled out of the van, stretching after the drive from their hotel in the suburbs. The friendship between the 5 of them, Lyla, Marina, Beth, Claire, and Josie, went back to college days and shared apartments and late-night conversations that had solved the world's problems. Life had scattered them across different cities, different careers, different paths. But the bond had remained. And these days the glue were these meetups when they each took turns choosing an amazing global location. This was Lyla's turn, and she picked a city that was near and dear to her heart. She couldn't wait to share it with them. "So this is Hitsville, USA," Marina said, looking at the modest house with its iconic sign, "where all the magic happened." The museum was housed in the original Motown headquarters, an ordinary residential house that Berry Gordy Jr. had transformed into a recording studio and the birthplace of the Motown sound. A small group was gathering for the tour, and they joined the queue. "I can't believe this is just a regular house," Beth said. "I mean, I knew it was, but actually seeing it." "Right?" Lyla said. "The Supremes, Stevie Wonder, Marvin Gaye, all of them recorded in someone's house. It's wild." Their tour guide was a woman in her 50s with obvious passion for the subject. She led them through the house, starting with the lobby where young artists had waited nervously for auditions, then up to the small apartment where Berry Gordy had lived while building his empire. "Motown wasn't just a record label," she explained. "It was a finishing school, a family, a movement. Berry Gordy didn't just record these artists. He taught them how to walk, how to talk, how to present themselves. He understood that talent was only part of the equation." They saw the small studio where so many hits had been recorded. Studio A, the legendary room with its distinctive sound. The space was tiny, barely large enough for the musicians and the recording equipment, but the guide explained how that closeness had been part of the magic. "The sound bled between instruments," she said. There was no isolation, no separation. Everyone could hear everyone else, and they played together, reacted to each other, created this cohesive sound that you couldn't replicate in a bigger studio. Lyla found herself absorbed in every detail: the vintage equipment, the photos on the walls, the stories about recording sessions that had lasted days. Her friends kept glancing at her, smiling at her obvious enthusiasm. "You're in heaven, aren't you?" Josie whispered. "Dead and gone," Lyla said, winking. The tour concluded in the small museum shop, and they browsed through vinyl records and books about Motown history. Claire bought a poster, Beth bought a t-shirt, and Lyla spent 10 minutes debating between several books before choosing one about the Funk Brothers, Motown's legendary house band. Back outside, Marina checked her phone. "We've got an hour before lunch. What's next on the agenda?" "We could walk around the neighborhood," Lyla suggested, "see some of the other historic sites. Or we could head to the Detroit Institute of Arts. It's incredible." "Art museum," Beth voted. "Music for the eyes." "Let's do it," Claire said. "Democracy has spoken," Marina declared. The Detroit Institute of Arts was housed in a beautiful Beaux-Arts building, and the collection was extraordinary, everything from ancient Egyptian artifacts to contemporary installations. They wandered through the galleries, sometimes together, sometimes splitting up to explore at their own pace. Josie found them all in front of Diego Rivera's Detroit Industry murals, massive frescoes covering the walls of a central courtyard, depicting workers and machinery and the industrial power of Detroit in the 1930s. "These are insane," Josie said. "I mean, the scale alone." A museum docent was speaking to a small group nearby, and they drifted closer to listen. "Rivera spent 11 months working on these murals," the docent explained. "He studied the Ford factories, sketched the workers, tried to capture not just the physical act of industry but the dignity and power of the working class. They were controversial when they were unveiled. Some people thought they were too political, too sympathetic to communism. But now they're considered one of the finest examples of Mexican muralism in the United States." They stood in front of the murals for a long time, taking in the details: the workers' faces, the machinery, the symbolic elements woven throughout. "Detroit has this whole other history beyond music," Claire said thoughtfully. "The automotive industry, the unions, the industrial might." "Everything connects, though," Lyla said. "The music came out of this, working class people creating art, Black excellence emerging from communities that were here because of the auto jobs. You can't separate the music from the rest of it." "There she goes," Marina teased. "Can't take her anywhere without the music lecture." "You knew what you would get if you let me plan a day in Detroit," Lyla said. "Facts," Marina admitted. They had lunch at a restaurant in Midtown, a modern place with good sandwiches and local beer. The June weather was perfect, so they sat on the patio watching the neighborhood activity. "So what's this afternoon?" Beth asked, stealing a fry from Claire's plate. "Hey," Claire protested, "order your own next time. Yours always tastes better. It's a scientific fact." Lyla consulted her phone. "I've got us tickets for the Detroit Historical Museum. They have a good section on music history. Then there's a record store in Corktown I want to check out. And I was thinking we could drive past some of the important sites, The Grande Ballroom, Jack White's childhood home, that kind of thing. Are you stalking him? Josie said, laughing. I swear, Lyla said, it's a legit tourist destination. The historical museum gave them more context. Not just music, but the full sweep of Detroit's history. The automotive exhibits, the civil rights movement, the 1967 uprising, the decline and recent revitalization of the city. But there was also a significant music section with instruments and costumes and recordings from Detroit's rich musical heritage. Beyond Motown, they learned about the MC5 and the Grande Ballroom, the birthplace of punk rock. About Aretha Franklin, who had lived in Detroit for decades. About techno music being invented here, birthed from the city's industrial soundscape. About Jack White and the White Stripes emerging from the Detroit garage rock scene. This city has given so much to music, Marina said, reading a display, like punching way above its weight. Yes, it's fascinating in history when a confluence of factors comes together to create something unique, Lyla said. Here it created this particular energy. There's the lecture again, Beth said, smiling. The record store in Corktown was exactly the kind of place Lyla loved. Overstuffed with vinyl, organized chaos, a owner who clearly knew every record in the place. They spent 45 minutes there, everyone finding something. Marina bought a Supremes record. Beth found a Laura Nyro album she'd been searching for. And Lyla ended up with 3 records she definitely didn't need, but couldn't resist. I don't even have a record player, Claire said, holding up her purchase, a Velvet Underground album. Then why did you buy it? Josie asked. Because it's cool, and maybe I'll get a record player someday. That's the spirit, the store owner said, ringing them up. Records are for appreciating, not just playing. Although playing them is nice too. Back in the van, Lyla drove them on a loosely planned route through various Detroit neighborhoods, pointing out sights as they went. That's the Grand Ballroom, she said, slowing down in front of a somewhat decrepit building. The MC5 played here, the Stooges, everyone in the late 60s Detroit scene. It's been closed for years, but there are always rumors about it reopening. They drove through neighborhoods that had seen better days, and neighborhoods that were clearly coming back. Past Hitsville again, past churches where gospel legends had gotten their start, past venues that had hosted everyone from Muddy Waters to Eminem. That's Jack White's childhood home, Lyla said, pointing at a modest house. Just a regular street in southwest Detroit. It's weird, right? Beth said, seeing where famous people came from, and it's just normal. That's what makes Detroit interesting, Lyla said. All this incredible art and music coming out of regular neighborhoods, from people who just had something to say and the drive to say it. They ended up along the Detroit River as the afternoon was turning toward evening. The riverfront had been transformed into a park, with walking paths and green spaces, views across to Canada. They parked and walked along the path, enjoying the breeze off the water. So what's for dinner? Claire asked. Please tell me you've got that plan too. I've got 3 options, Lyla said, depending on what people are in the mood for. Of course you do, Josie said. The woman is a machine. They settled on a restaurant in Greektown, a lively place with good food and a fun atmosphere. The neighborhood was busy with evening activity, and they got a table with a view of the street. Over dinner, grilled octopus, lamb chops, spanakopita, saganaki, that arrived flaming and prompted applause from surrounding tables. They recapped the day. "Favorite moment?" Marina asked. "Standing in Studio A," Lyla said immediately, just thinking about all the people who'd stood in that exact spot. "The Rivera murals for me," Josie said. "The scale was just overwhelming." "The record store," Beth said. "I love a good dig through vinyl." "Honestly, just driving around looking at everything," Claire said. "Getting a sense of the city, you know. It's grittier than I expected, but also more interesting." "Detroit gets a bad rap," their waiter said, overhearing as he cleared plates. "People who don't know it think it's all decay and danger. But people who actually come here, they see what we see. A city with incredible history, amazing culture, and resilience. We've been through hell, and we're still here, still creating, still pushing forward." "The music scene still active?" Lyla asked. "Very active. Hip-hop, electronic music, rock. We've got venues all over, artists making incredible work. Detroit never stopped making music, even when everything else was falling apart. That's who we are." After dinner, they walked through Greektown for a bit, then headed back to their hotel. The drive gave them a different view of the city at night. The downtown skyline lit up, Belle Isle visible in the distance. Neighborhoods quiet now, but not empty. "Good day?" Lyla asked as they pulled into the hotel parking lot. "Really good," Marina said. "I'll admit, when you suggested Detroit, I was skeptical. But this was great." "Skeptical?" Lyla said. "You literally said, why would we go to Detroit when we could go literally anywhere else?" "I don't recall that," Marina said primly. "I have the text messages," Josie said. "Want me to pull them up?" "Nope, I'm good." "I was wrong. Lyla was right. Detroit is the bomb. Can we move on?" They made their way up to their rooms. They'd gotten 2 adjoining rooms, which gave them space but also the option to hang out together. And predictably, within 15 minutes, everyone had gravitated to one room, claiming various pieces of furniture. Claire had her laptop out, showing them the photos she'd taken during the day. Beth was lying on one of the beds, already in pajamas. Marina was going through her own photos on her phone. Josie was looking up Detroit music playlists. "Play something Motown," Beth said. "Feels appropriate." Josie found a playlist and hit play, and the opening notes of My Girl filled the room. Marina immediately started singing along, off-key but enthusiastic. "Please no," Claire said. "We've talked about your singing." "My singing is delightful," Marina protested. "Your singing is many things," Lyla said. "Delightful is not the word I'd choose." They fell into easy conversation, talking about the day, about their plans for tomorrow. They were driving to Ann Arbor, then maybe stopping in some small towns on the way back. Nothing too ambitious, just exploring. Someone ordered room service, a plate of cookies and a pot of coffee, because it wasn't that late and the sugar sounded good. They shared the cookies while Marvin Gaye sang about the grapevine, and the Supremes insisted that you can't hurry love. "You know what's nice about Detroit?" Beth said, dunking a cookie in her coffee. "It feels real, not polished for tourists, not trying to be something it's not, just itself." "Agreed," Josie said. "I liked that. The city has been through things and it shows, but it's not trying to hide it or pretty it up. The music reflects that too, Lyla said. Motown had that polish, that finishing school perfection. But other Detroit music, the MC5, the Stooges, Detroit techno, it's raw, it's industrial, it's real. And there's the lecture, Marina said, with an eye roll and then a smile. I'm allowing it, Claire said. This is Lila's wheelhouse. Let her have it. They stayed up later than they'd planned, talking and laughing, the music playing in the background. At some point, the conversation drifted from music to other topics. Someone's terrible date, a funny story about a coworker, a question about whether hot dogs were sandwiches that somehow devolved into a heated debate. A hot dog is clearly not a sandwich, Beth insisted. The bread is connected. It's a different category. But if you split the bread all the way through, it becomes a sandwich, Claire asked. So the status of the hot dog depends on the structural integrity of the bread? This is the stupidest conversation we've ever had, Marina said. You literally argued last month that soup is a drink, Josie pointed out. Gazpacho is absolutely a drink. Eventually, people started yawning, and one by one, they drifted back to the other room. Lyla was the last to leave, checking that she had her phone and room key. Good day, Claire said, already half under the covers. Fantastic, Lyla agreed. Back in her room, Lyla settled into the chair by the window, rather than getting ready for bed immediately. From here, she could see a slice of Detroit's skyline, the Renaissance Center, the distant glow of downtown, the dark ribbon of the river. She thought about the day, standing in the room where My Girl had been recorded, seeing Diego Rivera's massive murals, digging through vinyl in the Corktown record store, driving past the Grande Ballroom, and thinking about all the raw, revolutionary music that had been born in this city. Detroit had surprised her, even though she'd expected to like it. The resilience of it, the way the city was reinventing itself while honoring its history, the genuine warmth of the people they'd encountered, all of it had exceeded expectations. And doing it with her friends had made it better. Their teasing, their different perspectives, Marina's terrible singing, the stupid debate about hot dogs, that was all part of it, all part of what made these trips memorable. The night was quiet, just the distant hum of traffic and the occasional siren. The hotel room was comfortable, the bed looked inviting, but Lyla wasn't quite ready to call it a night. The day had been full, but in the best way, the kind of full that leaves you energized rather than depleted. She could still hear Motown music in her head, the bass lines, the hand claps, the soaring vocals. The sound that had come out of a modest house on West Grand Boulevard and changed popular music forever. The sound that was quintessentially Detroit, working class, racially integrated, commercially successful but artistically ambitious, polished but soulful. Tomorrow they'd explore more of Michigan, but tonight she was content to sit in this moment, in this city that had given so much to the music she loved, feeling grateful for the chance to experience it, to walk where musical history had been made, to understand a little better how place shapes sound shapes culture. The skyline glittered in the distance, and somewhere in the city, music was being made. In studios, in basements, in bedrooms, the next generation of Detroit artists creating the sounds that would define their moment, carrying forward the legacy of innovation and resilience that had always been this city's gift to the world.